2018 candidate for California governor as a libertarian is now running again in 2022. This time, he's running as a Republican to attempt to unseat Governor Gavin Newsom. I am here with Nickolas Wildstar. Nickolas, thank you so much for coming on to the program.
It's an honor to be here, Cameron. Thank you for having me.
So before we get into your policy plans and what your platform is, what inspired your decision to run in 2022 for California governor?
Well, the same thing that inspired me to run for governor to begin with, failure in leadership and a lack of representation by our elected officials. They always campaign on wanting to help the little guy, supposedly, whether it's the working class, the small businesses, the homeless community, the minorities, etc. These are all campaign promises that are made by politicians to help those in need. But rarely do we actually see that actually turn into action once they get into office. So to challenge them, their authority and their role in the community, I myself chose to run as an opponent against that establishment, which is why I ran for governor in 2014 as an independent candidate, and then threw my name in the race again in 2018. And that time I ran as a libertarian and was the endorsed candidate. And due to me running on a larger platform, I was able to get about 12,000 votes. So I'm hoping to add a few more zeros to that this time around when I run as a Republican in 2022.
Why did you make the switch from the Libertarian Party to the Republican Party for the governor race?
Well, more so just campaign strategy to make sure that my messaging is being heard by a larger audience. Unfortunately, when you're running as a third-party candidate, you're ignored by the mainstream media as well as the voters, who tend to think that, you know, a third-party candidate doesn't really have a shot at winning, actually. So with me running as a Republican now, that gives me an opportunity to be heard by a larger group of people, as well as hopefully not to be ignored by the media, and have my campaign spoken of by these larger platforms. So, and also, of course, since my principles and goals as a candidate more so aligned with the Republican Party, as far as me being anti-tax, pro-liberty, and pro-guns, disqualifies me from running as a Democrat. So also in alignment with, I guess, policy issues as well.
In your platform, do you almost feel like, as a former Libertarian Party candidate, do you want to reform the Republican Party to match your ideology?
Oh, yes. I mean, the two have more in common than a lot of people think. Like I said, the Libertarians are anti-tax, which the Republican Party used to be proponents of, but we see less of that nowadays, with them also buying into social welfare programs and bailout packages, etc. It's just not something that we feel like taxpayers should be, the government should be doing with our money, whether it's bailing out any of these multi-business industries, multi-million-dollar industries, or some of these multi-million-dollar companies who don't need any funding at all, and these government entities that, of course, need tax dollars to stay in operation. So a lot of them can be disbanded altogether, like the DMV and the DEA and the Department of Education, etc. But it takes people being brave enough to speaking as to why they should not be in existence as to actually do anything about getting rid of them. But I do feel as if the Republican Party, again, gives me a larger platform to be heard by more people. And with me promoting libertarian solutions, that is a rebranding of the party itself. So I'm technically running as a Libertarian Republican to reshape the party's image. And since they are in a bit of a need of a reform on their image as well, I hope to redefine that with my campaign and hopefully give them the leg up that they need to actually turn California red for once.
Let's go into your platform, and we have a few commenters on the side, and we'll get to those questions to the end, or maybe wrap them in to your policy plans. But let's first start out with what one of your plans, economic revitalization plan. It's something you believe that California's economy needs to be revitalized. As you know, and as some of the audience may know, California has the largest economy in the United States. Why does the largest economy in the United States need to be revitalized?
Well, especially now during this economy with it being shut down, it's in the need of a breath of fresh air and some redevelopment since it has been shut down essentially. But as you said, California is one of the largest economies in the entire world, even though we're some of the highest tax people per capita across the entire nation. We have one of the nation's worst educational systems, healthcare systems. We have the largest homeless population in the entire country. So somehow, some way, we're sticking in there. And that's mainly because of the amount of tax revenue that's generated from the hardworking people in this state. Instead of sending that money away in federal funding, we can keep that here in the state, take care of our own problems, and make sure the people here have a better quality of life. That way we can go from the fifth largest economy to the first. And all of the government red tape that prevents us from working and growing as individuals definitely needs to go. For instance, AB 5, which threw a big wrench in the gig economy, so much so to where you had companies like Uber and Lyft pressure the people of the state to pass Prop 22 so rideshare drivers could go back to work and continue to work as independent contractors. But that still leaves those people that do work as independent contractors here in the state out of work and having to resort to working for another company, an employer, to provide them with the opportunity for employment. And that's just awful, because we should be embracing of people wanting to work for themselves. The entrepreneurial spirit is what started this country and is the foundation of who we are. So we definitely need to keep that spirit alive and well, and we could do so here in the state of California. I think to help revitalize our economy, getting rid of some of the occupational licenses that prevent people from working as a hairstylist or even a landscaper or gardener definitely needs to go. And all of the taxes that are harming the working class, the property taxes, the gas taxes, the excess taxes that continue to pile up and make it harder on those that are working day by day just to get by. So we got to give them some economic relief right now more than ever before, especially during this pandemic when you have people that are facing evictions and job loss and unable to feed their children. We do have a governor right now who could care less about making sure that they're in a better position in life. And he's not focusing on the problems that they're dealing with more than ever. So there needs to be some refocus on how we can help our working class here in the state, and that's exactly what I plan on doing.
You talk about a limit, or the need for occupation. You're basically saying that occupational licenses are not really necessary, and that you would fight to end occupation. Oh, excuse me. Sorry again.
No, they don't. They don't serve any purpose at all.
Yes. So that's what I'm getting to. So you say they don't serve any purpose. How would you respond to a critic who will say that occupational licenses are necessary because we need to know if that individual is qualified enough to do that certain job?
Well, the job performance itself is all the proof that a person would need as a consumer to know that they are capable of providing that work. And if they aren't, then of course you're more likely not to give them your money because you'll see so. For example, with a hairstylist, you have people that have been doing hair since they were a child, yet are forced to obtain a license just so they can open their own beauty salon or do hair out of their home, whatever the case may be. But of course, previous customers and examples of that person's work is going to be all the proof that any future consumer would need to actually do business with them. A lot of the government red tape, the zoning fees and applications in order for them to get approved to get into business also costs. So if you don't have the seed money to pay thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars to get licensure or permit fees approved, etc., then now you're really not going to have an opportunity to work for yourself. And that's even more of a deterrent for them to want to do so. So we want to motivate people to start again providing more jobs for other people out there, as well as more services for people that are out there looking for them. And if we remove those barriers, then that is, of course, going to incentivize those people that are looking for that. It also stops with housing development. I mean, we have a housing crisis, and when we're talking about creating affordable housing, then removing those zoning fees and requirements would allow the development of more affordable housing here in the state. So if people just looked at the government interference as more so as an interruption and the stifling of that development, then they see that the benefit outweighs the means. So if we focus more so on just getting government out of people's lives in those aspects, then I foresee a great development of our economy. That's one that's more strengthened on our ingenuity and our desire to want to work harder.
Let's get into your other plans, specifically you talked a little bit about housing, your plan on homelessness. We had a comment asking your plan on homelessness. So let me show, before I'm going to show this important statistic on the screen here about California's homelessness crisis. California has the highest amount of people experiencing homelessness in the United States. The most recent count was over 151,000 individuals. That's coming from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Nickolas, what is your plan to solve homelessness here in California?
Well, as high as that number may be, it definitely is still a fraction of our population, which is over 40 million people here in California. So it is the highest in the entire nation, but it's very minimal to our entire population. But it shouldn't be looked at as being an eyesore when people are looking at the landscape of or the backdrop of San Francisco or San Diego or Hollywood or even Fresno, where I live here, when we have all of the means and resources to help those in need. We spend tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars a year just to aid the homeless. And what I'm planning to do is create 3D printed homes. These are homes that would be built in less than 24 hours. For less than $5,000 each, and then are self-sustainable. They have their own source for water and power, since they run off of their own generators. So if we invested into these tiny homes and actually created communities where those in need of temporary housing have an opportunity to stay, better themselves, put themselves in a better position to where now they can move on and gain their own housing by way of finding employment. Then that's really all that the majority of them need. I've spoken with tons of people that are living out on our streets, and they're not just people that are living in tents. That you have people that are living in their cars, that are living in hotels, that have families, small children, and unfortunately are just dealing with one of those unfortunate events that could render any of us living on the street, whether it's something where it has to do with employment, them losing their jobs, or and housing issues. You have people out there that used to live with family members and had an issue with a friend or a family member or a spouse, and now they're faced with having to live on our streets. So not everyone on the streets lives there as a matter of choice. And that's how we could definitely first approach the issue, is by giving houses to those who actually want them. We also have a large population out there who have mental health issues or substance abuse issues. They need to be dealt with in a way to where they're rehabilitated and given the opportunity to, as I said before, continue to provide for themselves or obtain that assistance that they need so they can no longer be dependent upon the state in order to continue to live. So there's different ways that we can approach the issue. Each and every person is different. So putting the resources into some of these nonprofit organizations, some of these churches, individuals that actually have the wherewithal and the connection or relationship with those people who are living on the street, all that they need so they can help those in need. Government comes in with this one size fits all plan, and usually, of course, doesn't work. But the people that have dealt with this problem head on, face to face themselves, they are more in tune of what's needed out there for those people. So giving them all the more resources that they need to help those in need would be the best way of approaching this.
Thank you, everyone, right now for all these comments on the side. We will get to them and wrap them in. And at the end, we'll start. I'll ask you some questions from the audience so that it intertwines. I don't want to just ask you randomly, but quite a lively comment section. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into Happs. I definitely see your comments, and we will get to them more and more. We got to one comment regarding homelessness, but I want to ask you further about the homelessness plan. You mentioned it on your website and even a little bit right now about individuals and NGOs receiving assistance to help address the homelessness problem. If that does not pan out, where individuals and NGOs, non-governmental organizations, are solving the issue, will it take taxpayer dollars to solve this issue, the homelessness issue?
Well, that's the assumption already. That's why, again, our tax dollars are collected to the tunes of tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars per year to actually deal with homelessness. Yet we see wasteful management of that money, and it doesn't ever go to help those individuals. For instance, the governor created a plan called Operation Lock Key, which was supposed to turn some of these hotels into temporary lodging for the homeless, and hundreds of millions of dollars were wasted on these programs, where it essentially turned those real estate properties into slum houses. And it's awful because, again, our money was wasted, our tax dollars was wasted on a program that was meant to help those people in need. I saw one of the comments mention about how the 3D printed houses would pretty much devalue the surrounding homes in the community. That's actually not true. They come to find that using this advanced technology, which are these 3D printed homes, which look wonderful, I mean, would definitely improve property values of neighboring homes. And not everybody, of course, wants to have someone homeless living in their neighborhood, or someone that's dealing with the substance abuse issue, etc. So it's a matter of finding those communities where they are welcome and doing development there, as well as I said, using some of this federal land that we have here in the state, open that up for development as well. I live in Fresno, and you can drive around and there's, if not, acreage, acres, tens of acres, thousands of acres that are unused. We could definitely redevelop that and have it be made available for those people who are in need of homes. And not everybody that's homeless is dirty or a drug user or a criminal. That's an extreme misconception. So once people get that out of their heads, then and find out that these are people just like you and I, who have dealt with an unfortunate circumstance and are in need of housing, then they'll be more welcoming towards them and their needs.
Before we switch topics, Pablo asks, what are your thoughts on gentrification in California, especially in major cities in California, and the role it plays on communities of color relocating due to rising costs? That's what Pablo De La Hoya asks in the comment section. What is your response to Pablo's question?
Absolutely. Well, it is a big problem, especially when these lower income communities are being bought out by, some of the big bankers and the bigger money developers who come in and increase the rent or increase the property value of some of the businesses that make it unaffordable for some of the small businesses to even compete. So the way that you would address that, again, I'm hoping one of the main ways is to allow more development, make it cheaper, make it less scrutinizing, to where now you have people in those areas that would like to reinvest into their own communities, have an opportunity to do so instead of having to take their money elsewhere. I mean, I've spoken to developers who have small businesses in some of these communities, and they would love to buy more buildings and provide housing, affordable housing to families in need, or even housing for the homeless. But they're being told by city officials, state officials, that it costs so much money, tens of thousands of dollars, for them to be able to get approval so they can actually go ahead and start coming in and creating what's needed in their own neighborhood. So that's a deterrent altogether. And then you have those larger corporations who come in and, buy up the properties and build high-rise buildings, or, some of these larger businesses, and it just turns away any other development in that neighborhood. So we want to make sure that the money is staying local instead of it going to the state. That's one thing that I do plan on doing, is having local tax money being focused locally. It won't be collected on the state level and redistributed into certain neighborhoods or other neighborhoods that maybe don't even need the money at all, or aren't looking for any other type of development other than maybe some school improvements or something like that. Unfortunately, the situation can't be addressed with a one-size-fits-all answer, since each community is different. But the one thing I can say is, again, if we remove and reduce the amount of government involvement, then you definitely may see more improvement in that area.
Okay. We have a comment regarding someone's asking about if Nickolas Wildstar, if Nickolas has a transportation plan. He does. We're going to get to that in a moment. But let's turn to your criminal justice reform plan. You talk about on your website, wildstar2022.com. That's your campaign website. You say that a major issue is that there's a lack of proper training and priorities, a lack of accountability, which has led to a breakdown in relations between the public and our public servants. What are some examples, or what are some examples that you have seen where there is a breakdown in trust between the public and our public servants?
Absolutely. Well, I used to live in Orange County before I lived in Fresno for about 6 years, and saw the homeless population skyrocket from just a few hundred people to thousands. And my wife and I did everything that I could to go out there and assist those people in need. Orange County has not been very hospitable to that type of activity by passing laws that prevent individuals from being able to go out there and actually feed the homeless. They actually passed more laws to prevent people from sleeping in their cars or sleeping on park benches, and refitting them to where, the park bench has a bar in the middle to deter anyone that is homeless from being able to lay there. So one of the homeless individuals in Fullerton, his name was Kelly Thomas, and he was a white male that was beat by the Fullerton PD to death. That's one case that I saw. But the outcry from the public was demanding of accountability, and they didn't get that. If anything, they got even more of an increase of authority by police officers in not only Fullerton, but in surrounding cities like Anaheim and Huntington Beach. So we rarely see the increase of accountability that the people of the community demand for. And it's because of a lack of accountability by our elected officials. They don't hold each other accountable. So if we're not holding them accountable, then why would they ever? So the breakdown in trust is fundamentally starting right there with that issue of the same people paying you with their tax dollars, paying your salary to protect them, and they're not seeing that happen, then they're going to become distressed. They're going to become angry. They're going to become resentful. And if that is the main issue that's causing the most strife in our communities, the best way to improve that is by having officers actually go into the communities that they serve, rebuild that trust, rebuild that relationship of responsibility. So they know that you're there to help them, to protect them, and to serve them, not to harm them or cause them trouble or present a threat to them either. So I believe that if we can get our officers back into the community, provide weapons training to some of these licensed carriers, people that have firearms legally, to be able to protect their homes, creation of community security services, to where now you have people in the community that are trained to protect their peers, their neighbors, instead of being reliant upon the police departments to actually reduce some of these issues, community issues, where they're not needed, whether it's a substance use issue or vandalism or a domestic issue or something like that, to where now you have the community security service providers going around and dealing with these issues. That way police can focus on the hardened criminals that are out there, because we're the first responders. The police are supportive services. So when something happens in our own neighborhood, it should be up to us to make sure that we're doing something about it first and foremost. And if you aren't going to take that responsibility on your shoulders, then let those who are willing to provide that service definitely do so. So community service and community police group development is definitely needed. And as I said, weapons training, I support California becoming a constitutional carry state. That way you can open carry, concealed carry, register your gun, not register it, whatever the case may be. Your Second Amendment right to bear arms will be respected and protected by law enforcement agents in the state of California. But also improving the training that these officers are receiving. Some of them have been on the force 10, 15, 20 years, never used their service weapon. And I believe that if they are faced with the threat of having to do so, they should be well versed on current training and de-escalation tactics to deal with those people that are dealing with mental health issues. And with respect to that issue altogether, instead of sending out police officers that are to deal with someone that may be having a mental health episode, send out mental health professionals. Outfit them to be able to go out there and respond to these calls, or someone dealing with the substance use issue, because addiction is a health crisis, not a criminal problem.
One quick thing I want to respond with to what you said, a question, and then we're going to get to your transportation plan, which is a part of your Gold New Deal. We often hear the Green New Deal. We're going to hear what the Gold New Deal is from you. But before we get to that, when it came to expanding gun rights and California becoming an open carry state, do you believe that expanding gun rights and turning California into an open carry state will reduce gun violence?
Absolutely. I mean, states that are across the country that do have open carry, like Texas, definitely have proven through their policy that people being gun owners, responsible gun owners, is definitely going to reduce gun violence that you see happen in their own backyard. So I believe that California is very, very supportive of this, from what I've found in speaking to the thousands of people that I speak to face, voters, and they are very welcoming of it. It's sad that the legislators don't tend to create any policies that are reflective of that, which is why once I am elected governor, I do plan on repealing the majority of these gun laws that exist, because they are inherently unconstitutional and definitely do not deserve to be enforced upon we the people. But as I said before, we're the first responders if there is an emergency. Someone breaks into your home, then you should be able to protect your home and protect yourself and protect your family. We even have ammunition laws in the state that prevent people from using rubber bullets in their guns because of a possible lawsuit, issue. So we need to remove the fear of what would happen if we were armed public, versus looking at the facts, looking at the data, looking at examples that exist all throughout our country, if not the world, and implementing them here in our state. We got to take the best ideas that we see happening from our government all over the country and centralize them, localize them, so we can start reaping the benefits of them. So I definitely believe that if we, again, are having our Second Amendment rights respected, then we should see a reduction in those type of violent crimes. Case in example, when majority of people get pulled over by a police officer, they're immediately profiled for having a gun. And that needs to change, of course. But if the individual's right to carry a weapon and be in possession of a weapon was not criminal, then that would reduce the amount of violent crimes that you see against civilians by police officers simply because they're in possession of a weapon, like with Stephon Clark, who was a 22-year-old male that was shot and killed in his grandparents' backyard in Sacramento because police believed he had a gun. He actually had a cell phone. So if the fear of any person, black, white, Hispanic, whatever the case may be, any person carrying a gun is taken away, then now you're reducing those types of police involved shootings and incidents where the threat was that that person was in possession of a weapon. Lots of arrests here in Fresno. About 80% of the arrests are because of a person being in possession of a weapon. But the amount of gun violence is extremely low. So there's an example right there in how the increase of someone or a populace being in possession of a weapon is definitely going to reduce gun violence.
Let's transition, and we had a commenter who was asking about your transportation plan under the Gold New Deal. You have a transportation, energy, finance, and beautification under this Gold New Deal package. And let's focus in on one aspect of the Gold New Deal that you're proposing, transportation. You believe that that California should have high-speed rails, hyperloops, and highly advanced technology for public transportation, while not taxing or increasing taxes for the taxpayer. You want to cut back on funding for what you call inefficient programs in order to then fund high-speed rails in California. How are you going to distribute that money in an efficient way as governor?
Absolutely. Well, I believe that the development of a high-speed rail or a hyperloop or a maglev train or whatever the case may be will be funded by investors. You have companies like Tesla who are happy to pay all of the money needed in order to develop this technology and high advanced technology for traveling to us. But it's the government red tape that actually prevents that development. I mean, you have the Boring Company out in Los Angeles, and they're still begging the state to allow them to add more track and basically get out of their way so they can continue developing this this tunnel that will allow us to essentially travel from places like Los Angeles to San Francisco in less than, a half an hour. But you have the Hyperloop being developed out in Nevada, which just went through its first test using, human transport, and it was successful. And that's because they were given the green light by Nevada officials to go ahead and continue building as they see fit without interruption from the government. So we need to embrace that culture here in the state of California to where we can allow some of these private companies to be able to invest as much money as they see fit into developing this technology and providing public transportation to us. And we'd be better off because of that, because now our tax dollars aren't being wasted on the creation of any of this at all. We have a high-speed rail here in the state of California that's yet to be built, even though we've been getting taxed for it for almost 10 years now and have been paying for it, but haven't seen any of our investment actually be used. So I believe that, again, if we get government out of the way, we'll see development of these technologies. We'll have more resources available to us and can actually save some money for once.
As a governor, you're going to have to work with the state legislature, and there are going to be California state senators or others in the state legislature who will disagree with you, who may say that high-speed rails are not necessary at this point in time. We need to focus on other programs. How are you going to convince those in government who will disagree with your public transportation plan?
Well, if I'm elected on all of my campaign proposals, it'll be up to the people of California to make sure that they're holding their local officials accountable, especially if they're the people that are electing me to be in position to speak up for them and their demands. So, as governor, I will be using that bully pulpit to pressure these legislators to pass policies that are supportive of creation and development of everything that I'm talking about, especially with the high-speed rail development or anything like that, because when you have other states neighboring us, like Nevada, who are already utilizing it, then that's going to push California further back into the dark ages. And if we want to advance forward and be the leaders in this type of technology and not be left in the dark, then we have to do something about it. And it takes someone that is thinking futuristically to actually believe in the need for it. Not only that, but know that the demand for it is there and to act on it. We rarely see any action from our legislators. If anything, it takes 5-10 years for any bit of legislation to actually get be embraced by our legislators. So if it's a matter of the people of California, looking at them and having them be exposed for their shortcomings and then electing someone into office that will follow through on their word, then that's up to them. But my goal again, and my job will be to make sure that I'm pressuring these legislators and letting them know that this is something that the people of California want. I'm also would like to have the development of a People's Bank of California. That way we can have banking be done by our cannabis industry, whether it's marijuana or hemp, but they're unable to do legal banking with any of the major banks due to federal regulation. So if we create a People's Bank of California, now those businesses, those legal operating businesses are now able to do legal banking, since they predominantly work in cash, and reinvest into the community. Now you have those people that are looking for small business loans being able to come to the People's Bank of California and get that small business loan interest free. The bank will also do transactions in precious metal and cryptocurrency, which is also technology that is being developed that needs to be implemented into our structure as a state, or else again we're being left in the dark ages with the development of this technology. So if we want to be leaders on the forefront, then we have to be forward thinking.
Let's transition. We're going to transition for our final topic and turn to this race that you have already entered into. There are certain candidates, certain two Republicans who have entered. John Cox, who ran in 2018, he announced that he's engaging in an exploratory campaign, so he's not fully declared. So again, we're going to talk about the race in 1 second. I see all of your comments. We're going to get to your comments here as well. But as we turn now to the 2022 race, it's not 2021 yet. We're at the end of 2020. Why did you enter into this race before the start of 2021?
Well, I gotta start now than later. I mean, I don't have the millions of dollars that John Cox has, nor will I ever, probably, since I'm completely anti-establishment and won't be getting any backing from any of these special interest groups or lobbyist groups or unions that tend to fund pour tens of millions of dollars into these candidates' campaigns. So I have a lot of ground to make up. And with the primary being the most important here in the state of California due to our top two system, it's important for me to start making a presence now, so I have an opportunity to advance through the primary, which is in March 2022, March 8th to be exact. So with 2021 right around the corner, as you pointed out. That leaves me with little more over a year to get out there and build the name reputation that I need, get that recognition that I need also as a candidate to gain over the majority that I need to get through the primary in March, since we do have that top two system. And that just means that whatever top two candidates, no matter of their political party affiliation, are the only two that we get to choose from in the general election. So we could have actually have two Democrats or two Republicans end up heading off and going head to head in that November election. So if we want to prevent that from happening, where we actually have differing voices up there, differing policies and proposals, two different personalities, then we got to make sure that we're focusing on our state primary. So I got a lot of ground to make up, which is why I'm starting my race now.
One more question on this, on the race specifically, and then we'll get to one question here that a lot of people are asking and they're interested in the comment section. You talk about the jungle primary in California, and it's a top two primary. It doesn't matter what political party you're in. If you make it to the top two, you move on to the general election. Are you running a campaign then not against your own fellow Republicans, but you have to square off against other Democrats and third-party candidates in the primary all at once? Do you feel like you have to change your strategy in a situation like this? Maybe instead of, if you were running in a different state?
Not at all. I've actually learned from my local campaign for running a mayor of Fresno that people just like consistency. They like being able to refer to the candidate and their policy proposals and everything that they stand for, and being confident on what it is that they're supporting. So the majority of what I've been demanding to do for the state of California, I've been advocating for since I ran for governor in 2014. There's been some additions to what I'd like to do, but not much of a change in what I'm offering. So with people demanding consistency and demanding governance from their state officials that actually is going to be respectful of what they're.
We have a technical issue here. Nickolas Wildstar, his feed dropped. I don't know why. Thank you everyone for joining right now. Nickolas Wildstar was just here. Hold on one second. Let's see if we can get him back on the air. I don't know why. Sorry, everyone. Having technical issues here on Happs TV. Nickolas Wildstar's feed just dropped. I'm not sure why. Hold on. So if you're just joining right now, we had Nickolas Wildstar. He's messaging me, or I hope he is. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So sorry. Are you good? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there, but I'm back.
That's what happens on live television here on Happs. So I want you to finish your answer before we get to a final audience question.
Sure. What I was saying about people wanting consistency and just to follow through on their state officials' part, that's one of the biggest things that I believe is going to attract those people that are leaving the state to want to stay here. California is a great state. It offers great benefits, and of course, as one of the greater type of environments that people want, with it being nice and lovely, with the sun being out the majority of the year. So it's definitely a place that people would like to continue to call home. And it's sad that we have state officials, state politicians, even local politicians that are chasing people away and wanting to find opportunity elsewhere. So if we can shift that focus back to, again, great governance, then I believe that would end that exodus. I believe one of your commenters were asking about that. We can keep people here in the state of California just by doing that.
Last thing, I'm going to ask you a question that a lot of people were asking. If you don't want to answer, that's totally fine. There's the flag in back of you. Why is the flag upside down?
Well, this upside down flag symbolizes a nation in distress, which I believe we are definitely experiencing right now with these lockdowns, which are arbitrary. You had the governor recently just now impose a curfew starting Saturday. So starting Saturday from 10 p.m. until 5 p.m., we, the people of California, are not able to freely move about until, I believe they said, sometime in December. So that means Thanksgiving week, Thanksgiving Day holiday, which is next week, people will be forced to stay in their own homes and are being told to not interact with each other. So we're having our personal freedoms be pretty much disrespected. And that's also what the sign upside down represents, is a violation of personal property. Your body, your property, and you should be able to dictate what you are doing with yourself. And if we're being told that we can't meet with other people, friends and family, at their homes or at our homes, and we're only able to do so for so long, then we're being under a dictatorship. That's exactly what this government is proving to be, and we need to be recognizing that in every way, shape, or form. And this is to notify those people out there that may not be aware of what's happening here in the state of California, put them on notice, as well as other people in the world. We are suffering.
Nickolas Wildstar, thank you so much for coming on to this program and for being here on Happs TV. For Nickolas Wildstar, I'm Cameron Sadeghi. Thanks for watching this broadcast, and have a great night.
Thank you very much for speaking with me, Cameron.